Joining us now is Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan, a Fox News military analyst and an all-around good guy. Wanted to talk to him about a couple of things. There are really two things going on. First question is, should we be negotiating with the Taliban? Let's hold that for just a moment. I want to ask you about Syria, because what happened is that we had war games in Jordan, and we sent about 700 troops and a lot of equipment to Jordan for these war games. And now, due to security concerns, in Syria, we are leaving a combat-equipped detachment of about 700 U.S. troops in the country until things are resolved in some way. What do you read into that?
Well, obviously, Brian, we've got concerns about what's going on in Syria. Nobody knows where it's going to go. And, you know, Jordan, I'm in the Middle East all the time, and I'm in and out of Jordan on a regular basis. And Jordan is really a pretty stable country. They've got an awful lot of Syrian refugees right there. But the king is well respected. There have been some very minor demonstrations. There is some discontent with the government, but it's nothing like we see, throughout the rest of the Middle East with the Arab Spring. So, you know, I think we're just keeping those people there to kind of hedge our bets. We're going to work with the Syrians on making sure they're able to withstand any kind of chemical attacks. We've got some anti-aircraft missile stuff there. We've got 12 to 24 F-16 fighter jets, which could obviously be used if we started to put in a no-fly zone. And I think we're just trying to establish a military presence and watch, for the most part, what goes on inside Syria without any intent of becoming directly involved.
Would it be something we could conceive of to let the Syrians use the equipment and we stand by as sort of military advisors?
Well, we are training Syrians right now, as you know, and we have been for some time. It finally became public here some weeks ago that we've got CIA and special ops guys there training Syrian resistance forces, but it's not inconceivable that some of that material would be moved. In fact, when you look at the chemical weapons aspect, we should, in fact, be training some of the Syrian resistance people about how to deal with chemical weapons, because if the fighting continues as it is, at some point it's not out of the realm of possibility that Assad, in an act of desperation, is going to want to deploy chemical weapons, and it's going to be a tragedy for everybody involved. And if that happens and it's against the resistance forces, we need to make sure, if we want them to have any chance of succeeding against Assad, that they know how to deal with what they're confronting.
Colonel Bill Cowan, let's shift to Afghanistan. We had John Kerry, Secretary of State, say that the peace talks with the Taliban need to get back on track after a delay. Of course, that delay was the Taliban killing 4 American armed service members in a terrorist attack, and Karzai's government stepping away from the tables because they were angry that the United States agreed to talk with the Taliban. Meanwhile, the Taliban is offering to deliver the only known American prisoner of war in exchange for 5 senior operatives that are currently held at Gitmo. What in God's name are we doing talking to the Taliban?
Well, Larry, I listened the other day to Congressman Louis Gohmert, and you talked about this, and he turned this whole notion of dealing directly with the Taliban outrageous. I'm a Vietnam vet. I remember very well Henry Kissinger walking off to negotiate with the North Vietnamese, and by doing that, dealing with the Viet Cong, while the South Vietnamese were totally left out of the equation until sometime later on. We essentially went to the South Vietnamese and said, here's the rules that you're going to play under now. And Karzai,
and look how well that turned out, Colonel.
Exactly. And look, we have plenty of reasons not to like Karzai. There are a lot of things. You know, he's not our best friend. But the fact of the matter is he's the president, the duly elected president of a sovereign nation right now that we happen to be there helping fight and probably couldn't fight on their own. For us to run off and strike some relationship with the Taliban where we hope to bring Karzai and his government in later that's outrageous in its own right. And again, I'm not defending Karzai, but if I'm Karzai and I think back to what Kissinger did, you know, with the North Vietnamese, I'm thinking I don't have a dog in this race yet, a horse in this race, and I'm probably not going to win.
Colonel, can I ask you to just reflect on one aspect of this, taking it out of the strategic realm really quickly? I did not serve. You did. How does something like this reflect in the morale of our troops when we hear that the American government is willing to sit with the Taliban, the whole purpose of the mission in Afghanistan was to eradicate the Taliban?
Yeah, thanks, Larry. What a great question. Look, my own son goes back in September. He's in the Army. He's going back in September for his 4th tour. So our men and women, and I can't say enough about the sacrifice. You know, we've lost over 2,200 American servicemen and women lives over there. I cannot say enough about what our men and women have done. And essentially, when I see us going to negotiate with the Taliban, I have to believe that most of them feel as I do, that it is outrageous. It's a stab in the back to all the sacrifice that our men and women have done. And it shows that this administration is willing to do anything to essentially withdraw, without looking like we've been defeated. But you're hard-pressed in this town, and there's a lot of smart people in this town, extremely smart people, that have followed this war in Afghanistan from day one. Other than people in the Pentagon, you're going to be hard-pressed to find people say that we're on a path to victory, and I don't think we are, unfortunately, despite our loss. Congressman Gohmert said the other day that we had won when we first went in. He's exactly right. And I put a lot of this on the Bush administration. We got involved in nation building. Nation building is not our job. Nation building has caused us to be there 12 years now, suffer these casualties, spend perhaps $1 trillion, and get ready to leave now without any clear victory in our hands. The Taliban, Congressman Gohmert also pointed out that anybody over there who has worked with us and supported us, Afghans, know that when we leave, their lives are on the line. He's exactly right. The Taliban aren't going to do us any favors. They're happy to talk to us.
Yeah, they'll talk.
In the face to Karzai.
Yeah, they'll talk to us all day long, and then as soon as we leave, they'll do what they want to do.
That's exactly right.
All right, one quick question about this NSA leaker story, Edward Snowden. Now, he's in Moscow. Apparently, he bought a ticket on a plane to Cuba, but they didn't show up for the flight. But the NSA director has said that this man has caused irreversible damage to the United States. Do you have any thoughts about this particular story?
Well, look, I'm a guy that's had a top secret security clearance for most of my life. I still do. I like this guy. I know that when I signed up for that top secret security clearance, I was going to be given access to information I should never divulge, and I don't, and I haven't. And so for those reasons, he should absolutely be prosecuted if we can catch him. Having said that, Brian, I think it's good the American public knows what's going on. I think there are more revelations to come. I'm not happy. When I'm overseas, and I'm over there frequently, I expect the U.S. government to watch every telephone call and every email that I make, because they don't know when I'm over there whether I'm a good guy or bad guy or what. So when I'm doing stuff back this way, I want them to watch it. That's how we go about catching a lot of these people, by electronic eavesdropping. I don't want them paying attention to what I'm doing here in the United States. I don't think they have a right to, and I think there are more revelations to come out, and I wouldn't be surprised if all Americans are about to find out that every credit card transaction, and I'm not in these compartments of secrecy, so I'm just speculating here, every credit card transaction is monitored and saved somewhere for further use, and every bank transaction, everyone, no matter how big or how small, is saved somewhere for future look at. If somebody comes back and thinks Brian Wilson may be dealing with terrorists, they can go back for the last 10 years and find every telephone call, every email, every credit card transaction, every bank transaction, and they can build a case against you. And I think that's what's going on, and I think it's outrageous.
All right. Well,
Brian Wilson may be dealing with terrorists, actually.
No.
Well, how do you know? You had the scrunchy hose on the plane.
I once had a Jack Russell terrorist. But anybody who's had a Jack Russell Terrier understands that statement. Listen, thank you so much. Good to have you on, Colonel Cowan.
Thanks, guys. Great to be with you.
All the best.